Hello and welcome to day 20 of Black History Month, 28 Days of Black Excellence. My name is Faith Amour and I am excited to be with you here this evening. We're going to be delving into a dark stain in Canada's recent past and kind of its present too. Let's take a look. We're talking today about Africville. It is unfortunately something that we are still needing to rectify in some ways. Africville was a village made up of African Canadians north of Halifax in Nova Scotia, which is in eastern Canada. It was founded in the mid-1700s, and the first Black people that were there were enslaved Africans and possibly Jamaican Maroons, and later on, towards the War of 1812, refugees from that war. Now, Africville is naturally a blend of the two words African and village. And by the mid-1800s, Africville was a full-fledged community with a church, a school, fishing business, and much more. Now, the treatment of the residents of Africville by the government was quite disappointing, to say the least. In Halifax itself, so they were north of Halifax. In Halifax itself, there was a lot of anti-Black racism. So there was a reason to want to have kind of a safe haven, a place away from that discrimination. And so that's what Africville provided. It was community. And it was hard because if you wanted to be in the larger city, Black women could only find roles as servants and men as sleeping car porters, so on trains. So they wouldn't necessarily get to be home with their families. So there were only so many options. So they decided, we're going to build this community and we're going to be self-sufficient and we're going to make it work. So what's interesting is, although the city was willing to take the taxes from the residents of Africville, they weren't willing to provide the services that those taxes should be taken care of. So paving roads or sewers, or giving them running water, garbage collection, public transit, sufficient policing for everyone to feel safe, electricity, a cemetery, basic things. And very, very disappointing. When they were extending the Canadian National Railroad, I think that's in the next, let's see. When they were extending the railroad, the government actually let it cut straight through the village without consulting, really destroying many homes without compensating them for them having to move. And they were concerned, the residents were concerned about the pollution that it would bring in its wake. The city also put some of its worst services in Africville. So some of those being a human waste dump, a slaughterhouse, a prison, a hospital for infectious diseases, places that they didn't want to be too close to anyone, but it was okay for it to be on the outskirts or close to Africville. So the explosion that happened in Halifax in 1917 was devastating, and much of the north end of Halifax and parts of Africville were affected, were destroyed, were damaged. And so it was a worldwide outpouring of financial support. Millions of dollars in donations were brought in, and none of it went to rebuilding Africville. By the mid 1960s, Africville was being spoken about by outsiders as a slum, and it wasn't long before the city decided, hey, they wanted to tear up this village, and they did say that they would relocate the residents, but they also didn't take into account that none of the residents wanted to go anywhere. They were surviving in a very self-sufficient way right where they were, and because of racism it was hard to be anywhere else, and to really be able to have the same kind of life. They were having businesses there, and their community was there, their churches, their schools. So none of that seemed to be taken too much into account, and they were still, one by one, each of their homes were taken from them, demolished by the city of Halifax. And many who were Africvillians themselves, and even those who have seen and heard about this story, do believe that it was purely because of racism, and not quite as philanthropic. And that might be the incorrect word, but one of the arguments was, well, it's not terribly safe for them to be there among all of those, the infectious disease area, the dumps. So we'll find a better place for these residents. And it turned out that most of the residents didn't get compensation that would allow them to actually start a new life. Or their homes were taken away from them so quickly they didn't really have the time to make new plans. And so eventually they found themselves in different cities across Canada. And by 1969, it was all demolished, and it was devastating for those residents. And they've come back with legal recourse, and just like they've decided, the ones who decided we are not going to take this lying down, to speak up and to continue to fight for compensation, for the memory of that community that they loved so much. So what's happened in the aftermath is that in 1996, it became Africville, the site of it became a National Historic Site. In the year 2010, the mayor of Halifax apologized for what the city did to the residents there. Their church became a museum, and close by Africville Park. In 2014, they received, Africville was on a commemorative stamp here in Canada, and the residents, the former residents of Africville, have come together and had summer reunions annually, and it's become a symbol of standing up for what's right and not, and for resistance. And so it's devastating. Please check out the Africville Suites, Joe Seeley, Jackie Richardson, to get another take on this story, this occurrence. And I was really hoping that everything was all better now, but just checking a news article from last year, this woman here, Letitia Fraser, tried to go to the museum and to Africville, and she found it difficult to do by foot because there wasn't even a path to, it was not an easy thing to do, and it should have been easy. If people are caring about access and representation, and amending, making up for wrongs, then you have to make it. You have to go all the way. You have to care all the way. So yeah, that is something that I was shocked that it's still, when you say something that's important, you have to go all the way. That's all there is to that. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that is part of the story of Africville. Please look into it further. And there's still, I'm sure, still much that can be done, even on our parts. Yeah, it's always kind of devastating when you find stories and events that took place and in some capacity are still taking place. So we can't be silent, and we can't take a back seat. If there's something that's wrong, we have to stand up and we have to say something about it and see if something can be done. So that's my challenge. What can we do today in the spirit of Africville, in support of what happened? Not of what happened, but how can we help to make things better? Canada has not been innocent in the mistreatment of Black people, and this is one instance, and there are others, and we just can't sit back. The fight continues. The fight continues. So today we learned about Africville, a small haven with a tragic end. But it isn't over. If you enjoyed this program, please hit the like button, share with a friend. Because frankly, we look back so we can look forward to a better tomorrow. See you tomorrow when I'll speak about another figure or event in Black history, wherever you're watching from, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. I thank you so much for watching. I'm Faith Amour.